How's it going, everybody? My name is Alpine Hippie, and today we're going to be going over the Attack on Titan anime and manga series. For those of you who don't know, Attack on Titan is an anime and manga series that is originally written by the author Hajime Izayama. It was adapted into an animated series in 2013 by WIT Studios. So, I have decided to go through the absolute pleasure of binging the first 5 episodes of Attack on Titan and reading through the first volume of Attack on Titan that the first 5 episodes cover. It's also worth note that as I watched the 5 episodes, I followed along every single event with the manga, and I was very attentive to detail in regards to what they were saying, the order of events, and when they were happening and why. This is the first video where I'm really doing like a high research deep dive into a topic like this. I'm really passionate about it, so I really hope that if you like this kind of content, you'll subscribe to my channel and like the video. It really does mean a ton to a small channel like me. The main things that I want to cover are the primary differences between the anime and the manga, and I want to kind of weigh the pros and the cons of those differences. I'm just going to give a quick spoiler alert. I'm going to be covering a lot of key points in the anime and the manga that are going to completely give away some really big parts of the story. Now, let's dive right in. So the first major difference between the anime and the manga is that in the manga, you get the aspect of internal exposition. You get to know what the characters are thinking at times in the story, and you pretty much get explained to you directly what's going on and what they're thinking, so it's really easy to follow along a character's thought process then and there. Whereas in the anime, they don't really do much like internal narration. You pretty much just have to assess the situation, see what's going on, hear what the characters are saying, and deduce what they might be thinking or what their thought process might be for what's in front of them. I think that WIT does a pretty good job of adapting it the best that they can, but there's a few instances where it just shows out really hard. A great example of this is where Hannes is going to save Eren, Mikasa, and Eren's mom from the Titan that's coming to eat them. And in the manga, you get a really, really awesome internal dialogue of him like really mulling over his choice, if he's going to take the kids and run or try and defend Carla and the kids by killing the Titan. Whereas in the anime, you pretty much just see him say he's going to do it because, you know, the family did him a favor, and then he sees the Titan, gets terrified, and just decides to go. In the manga, you get a lot more internal reasoning on the decisions he's making and how excruciating it is for him to have to make that decision. The second obvious difference that you're going to get if you read the manga and watch the anime in close succession is the timeline difference in the cadet training. In the anime, it is completely chronological, from, you know, the first attack on the city till Eren joining the cadets and his entire journey through the cadets, you know, learning the ODM gear, learning about the history of the Titans, their weaknesses, how to use all the tools. You follow that journey in chronological order with Eren, you know, him meeting his fellow cadets and building relationships, his new ones and his existing ones. You get that all in order. In the manga, it tells you immediately these 10 people who are going to be the top of the cadet corps. It shows their faces and says their names, and then it goes back to the beginning again, where you kind of get this pieced together journey of building up to these characters that you already know are significant. I get why they do this in the manga. I understand that you have to put an emphasis on characters that you need the reader to pay attention to, so you don't get like lost in the sauce on all these side characters that aren't going to affect the overall story. But it just kind of gives this key information away. It tells you that Eren and all these specific people are going to succeed, so it kind of takes away from some of the suspense when Eren is struggling early on in his academy journey. But that's really the only place where it really took away from me, though. Outside of that, it was just difference, and it was kind of important for the context, so I don't really have a problem with it. This might be a good time to bring up that there's some violent moments and some dark things that I'm going to be bringing up. This is an adult show, and if you aren't really wanting to see or hear about some of this stuff, I just advise you to maybe stop the video right here. Now, let's talk about the Titans in the show. They are brutal. It's hard to watch. It is absolutely difficult to watch just people being eaten alive. There's only so much you can do on a page to like try and show how terrible it is. It is a whole different story when you are like watching someone screaming and crying while a Titan is like picking them up and about to bite their head off in front of all their comrades, and the mental effect that has on all the people around them. It's just a whole different level of disturbing, and it impacts you in such a different way. The manga also just tries to shove it in your face a lot more. Like, they'll just straight up add scenes. Like, I remember following along, and out of nowhere, the anime just did this like 3-minute cut of Titans just eating civilians in the street with a pastor ranting about the apocalypse walking through the street, and the entire interaction is closed off by the pastor like coming face to face with a Titan and him just getting eaten. It's devastating. It's brutal. There's also some minor character differences in the manga and the anime. Like, for example, Eren is just so much whinier and annoying in the manga. In the anime, like, yeah, he doesn't shut up. He's still known to be one of the whinier characters in anime pretty early on, but he says dignified stuff, and when he's whining, it's usually with purpose, and it usually inspires the people around him too. In the manga, he just kind of comes off as a little whiny bitch sometimes. Like, sometimes it just seems like he's complaining just to complain, and it kind of makes it difficult to like him sometimes. That being said, in the anime, it's a little overboard. I mean, he does kind of have that overly righteous hero vibe sometimes, but he's a lot more easy to root for in the anime, I'd say. His relationships with other characters are almost identical in the manga and the anime. Their dialogue is pretty much identical, and they don't really try to change much up. Wit does a really good job of showing those emotions, representing what those characters feel like, how they act. All the voice acting is spot on. They really just did a good job of showing the relationships how I think they were supposed to be read. Now, the last thing I kind of want to break down in terms of differences in the anime and the manga is the combat. Now, I feel like this kind of goes without saying, but the combat's just better in the anime. There's not really much you can do to compare the two. Like, obviously, if the animation is just terrible, that's going to be a worse off experience than just a really well done manga. But if you get a competent studio like Wit who puts their heart and soul into it like they did, the action's just going to be incredible, and it's just going to be better. It's in color, it's action, and you get to see in full movement how these things are being done. And it's especially important in an anime and manga series like Attack on Titan, where there's stuff like ODM gear. I've covered this stuff on some of my other videos. It's produced some of the best fight scenes in all of anime. Like, it is so fun to watch. It's insane how well they show it off in the manga. Like, it's really easy to tell what they're getting at in the movements and how it works, but watching it unfold in front of you is unreal. Like, they do such a good job of making it almost make sense how they move in these things, making it seem real, and showing how hard it is to do it and how impressive it is to maneuver. The biggest fight scene that happens in the section that I cover is Eren versus the Colossal Titan. It's the first showdown that him and Eren have 5 years after the initial attack that upturned his life completely, where he saw his mother die and everything just fell apart. The rage, the clarity, the dialogue, it's really cool here. The entire scene's awesome. It's really good in the manga, don't get me wrong, but it's just a whole new level when you get to see Eren, his eyes glowing, hearing his voice cry out in rage toward this enemy that he's had for so long. And while in the manga, this is where they put some of the best illustrations, it's just crazy to watch the Colossal Titan swipe at the wall, watch Eren get behind him, and then watch the Colossal Titan disappear again. Now, all this being said, I do actually vastly prefer the Armored Titan scene in the manga. In the anime, they do this big build up to it. They show him full on just standing there. Everyone's like freaking out. They show him. There's a big dialogue about it. I didn't really like it. In the manga, you just get the speech bubble. What is that thing? Our weapons aren't working against him. And then the next panel is literally him just blasting through the wall like the Kool-Aid Man. It's awesome. He looks so cool. It's so out of nowhere. The confusion is just so impactful to me. And I thought he just looked cooler too. The way I kind of want to close this off is just to remind you guys that regardless of the pros and cons of the anime and the manga, they're both masterpieces. The teams that worked on both respectively delivered absolute masterpieces. The anime couldn't exist without the manga, and the anime shot the manga into a popularity that it never would have gotten to on its own. Overall, I highly recommend consuming both of these materials. In whatever order you decide to do it, I just recommend it highly. It's a super fun experience to witness how different artists portray this, and I had a great experience just studying it and going over the material. I fully intend to continue making these videos. If this one flops, that'd be pretty disappointing, but I'd love to continue reading the series and doing covers with this video. So, thanks for kind of coming around and sticking on to one of my more passionate videos where I did a lot of research. I appreciate you coming on. Thank you for sharing my passions with me, and with all that being said, signing off.